Welcome back to the Imaginary Galleries. TJ, your host. We're rummaging through the Narcissist Bag of Tricks again. This particular video is designed for those of you who may have been involved with such a creature, or thought maybe it was such a creature, and you're perplexed now that it's over. Now, it could have been where you were discarded, or it could have been a matter where you found out too much information and it wasn't acceptable and you somehow broke free. And if that's the case, chances are there'll be a Hoover, and it won't be over until the creature gets to do the discarding, because they love to do that. They want to be in control. So if you say it's over, well, they're going to be begging at your door. They're going to be calling you day and night. They're going to act like they're so much in love with you, which is going to be flattering. But then if you compare it to what it is you've caught them doing or think that they're doing, it's a very difficult situation. They've laid it on thick in the beginning, and that's your first impression, so it's very easy to want to just stick with what's comfortable and try to work out the things that aren't. But unfortunately, with this type of creature, there's nothing to work out, because there's nothing wrong with the creature, so it thinks. The problem's you. You shouldn't be nosy. You shouldn't be checking up on them. You should just believe the words. And that's the way they think, even though they're not giving you any reason to believe them. It's also funny when you've had so many lies with these people, you find you have to go to other people for the truth, especially in the face of the lies. And when you say, I already talked to so-and-so, and she told me this is the way things happened, they'll get mad at you. Well, you're going to listen to her? And the correct answer to that is, well, with your track record, I'd be better off listening to a stranger. And of course, they don't like that. And of course, that all stems with the fact that you're still with this creature, because the creature isn't going to change what it is. It's perfectly fine. Everyone else is wrong and must fit to its needs. That's the way they believe. The cluster bee creature has many tricks in its bag, and you may have been discarded or discarded it. Regardless, you're split from it. There's no contact at this point. You may hear things about the creature. You may see it places, like I've done before, where I see the creature in another location, and it looks like a completely different person. It has a different expression, different look. It's just like a whole different person. And I wonder, that's not that person I knew, is it? And it is physically, but it's like the program was taken out and a new one was put in. It's like an empty robot that is simply hardware with nothing in it, and then it has to put a specific software in, which for you includes all of your memories together. You'll normally think you're dealing with a regular person, so you would assume that the way the person was with you is the way they'll be with another person. But you'll soon hear rumors about things that went on or conversations that happened, especially if you still have peers that are close, and you'll be baffled, thinking, how could that be? How could it be doing? That's nothing like we ever did, and things like that will sound very strange to you. Well, the reason is, it's hard to take, but it was all an illusion with you, custom made for you in your life. So the secrets you shared about the way you felt about relationships and this and that were mirrored back to you. To see this person doing whatever it's doing now, whatever it may be, can be baffling. If you keep this in mind, it may make that easier to understand, because you have enough to worry about if you've gotten this creature out of your life, regardless of who ended what. But for example, maybe you were involved with this creature, and let's say there were lots of varieties of bedroom activities partaken in with you too. And then you assume that, oh, he or she's going to do that same trick with the new person. But I was shocked with a few of my creatures, which I'll be blending experiences from multiple creatures over the years. Let's say that's how it is with you, that you're regularly active in that bedroom, and then it's over for some reason. And if you're an empathic person, a lot of times you're left without closure, which means you don't necessarily want the person back, but you also want to feel like it was a legitimate situation and circumstance, and try to come to terms as far as accepting it's over and making it clear on both sides, hopefully coming to a mutual agreement, which doesn't ever happen with these creatures. And they love to leave a little opening for themselves too. So even if they do run off, they will sometimes keep a little opening for you, and if you nudge at it and try to speak to it, it may come back to you temporarily. But it still has a new life going on usually, if you notice a big difference. Like if you were together every week for weeks and months and years, and then all of a sudden you don't see it, then maybe once you see it, well, it's got another fantasy fake world going on at this point, and you are just on the sideline if it makes time for you in most cases. You were active in the person's bedroom or your bedroom with this one a lot, and then you may hear rumors or meet other people who have dated this person, and I've pieced together in one particular case, which involves a speculation. I think it's pretty sound. I was used to the things I was used to, but then I would run into someone who said, oh yeah, I've been seeing your ex-creature, or I saw your ex-creature, and I wouldn't want to pry, but I'd sometimes just ask, well, what happened, how was it? And I was shocked with one of them to hear that nothing in the bedroom at all had happened. But then I met another one that was involved with the creature, and that one only would do specific bedroom activities. Not all of them, but like just limited ones involving certain limited parts. When I started to piece together all the different people that were involved, it was clear to see that one of them was very strict and wouldn't do certain things, yet the person I knew would do it all. But their week is filled with variety. Monday night they might be with the person that they have noticed the behavior in one of their other targets who's being strict, saying, I only do this. So they may even go as far with a new one to say, oh, I've decided not to make love to anyone for a while. I want to make sure it's right, which seems honorable in the eyes of the new person, but that's only one of them. Little does it realize it's got another storyline going where it's like we were, like all the time doing things. So it can put on those different masks because it knows to itself, I've got my supply, I've got this going on here and that going on there, because they usually have multiple at once. But they're trying to pick the best angle to get into each person, and they may think that that abstinence type thing may work with one, and it's just shocking to you if you hear that, because you'll think, that's not the person I knew. Well, it's because it's become a different person. Not really, but it's put on the role where these people go all out, which is another reason it works for them in some cases, because most of us couldn't imagine going through with a extracurricular life move like a relationship that's not like a required work or school or something. It's voluntary. But we would never imagine having to become everything we're not just to sustain such a thing. But that's what these creatures have to do, because they know underneath their sickening mask there's a repulsive reptilian creature that nobody would want to be with. And I think they know this. I've gotten indications from some that they know that. But they just cover that up and pretend to be the perfect partner for you until you ask too many questions, or until you look into things and find things out. Then that mask will slip off and you'll see that creature. But it's difficult if you find yourself in a room with a bunch of its conquests. They'll probably all have a different story. If you were all to say, we're going to discuss this person today, you'd hear one person's story and think, that's nothing like the person I knew, and then yours will be different to them, and it's just sickening. Usually the empathic person, if they're just dropped like that after constant contact, it can be natural for us to want that sense of closure and to at least try to talk to the person to see what exactly is going on, because we want to make sense of it. We don't want to believe that we just spent that many months or years of our lives with something as sickening as it's appearing to be, so we want to assure ourselves that it's not so sickening, but eventually we will find out on our own that it is that sickening, because they're not usually going to tell you how sickening they are. Because why? Because you probably have flying monkeys or friends of yours that are mutual, and it probably is using them for something, and if you were to go to them, it's going to make things different. Now, the creature can always lie, but it would rather not in a case where it can just maintain its false persona, even though it was built on you with these peers that are your peers that it may hang around with or still speak with. And it doesn't want to lose its credibility because, let's say it's one of your good friends that you've had forever that met this creature and they're still talking some. Well, it knows that you're going to win probably, even if it tries to turn them against you with their triangulation. But they'll still try. But they don't want to lose their credibility because they might be able to utilize that person for something else too, because before it was used to get messages to you. It wanted you to know something but didn't want to have to tell it to you, so it would contact that person and say, I really feel this way. And in fact, one person used to forward me the messages that would be all fake and dramatic, because I knew who they were coming from. This person didn't. She would forward me the messages. Instead of saying, this person's saying this, it's just, here's the message. And I read it and thought, this is manipulation. That's not the way it talks to me. They want to keep all their game pieces in place and don't want to ruin them if possible. Let's say it was cheating the whole year and you found out. If you tell your friend it's mutual, they'll lose credibility, and that only applies, of course, if there is a mutual friend. If there isn't, sometimes when they discard, they lay it all out. They say, look, I did exactly all the... It gives them a sense of that supply, because they know how sacred you may hold certain things, so that it'll just give them a big thrill when they finally secure their new supply, and they have no intention of coming back, at least for the moment. Then they might lay it out, which may crush you. Don't let it. Keep in mind, the next person's not getting anything better. All they're getting is a different version of themselves, like you got a different version of yourself when it mimicked you. And don't look for any sense to be made out of what they are doing now with their new creature, or worry about it, because it's taken on a brand new project. It isn't like a regular person that is the same few personality traits that are consistent over the years and are adapted to different situations. Instead, they become an entirely different person for each target they go after. And that's very difficult for the regular person to understand if you haven't experienced this before, because that's just not the way most adults run their lives. Maybe when we're kids we do all that, which is another thing I noticed too. And when you're dealing with these creatures and some of the excuses they make and the altering of reality and overriding of reality they try to use to explain how they ended up in someone else's bed they didn't want to be in, but they did it because of you saying this, and like all this nonsense. Well, you have to keep in mind as well that they're still a child underneath their adult body. They will play little games, and I've found in a few cases my brain would travel backwards in time, and I would remember playground activities when I was in grade school, those types of conversations, and that alone is very difficult to comprehend. We don't usually put it into articulate thoughts because that's like you're going backwards in time, and it actually does give evidence that they are still trapped in that era, but most of us have worked through such types of behaviors. An example would be like if you want to know why would you do this and you get an answer like,
because I felt like it.
And you think, what? Why did you do this after we had this discussion and you said you would never do anything like that and then you did it 10 times? What?
Because I felt like it.
That is a child. You can't really reason with that. And it's because really there's nothing else for them to say, because to tell you the real truth would probably get you out the door immediately, which should have been the case all along. And it's like they don't want you to know and they want to trap you for as long as possible for their own use. It's a sickening creature. It's one way with it. It expects you to tell it everything and not do anything wrong, yet it's perfectly fine for it to do everything wrong and just tell you none of it. And they think that that's a wonderful relationship. And as long as you mind your own business, you'll be together forever. Don't go looking into things on them, and that's no way to live. But then if you do find yourself speaking with others, which isn't a good idea to do a lot of, but if you end up running into them and they small talk somewhat, if you talk about your experience and they've had one that's different, it's going to be just as shocking to them if they hear your version of whatever happened with you, because they're going to be doing the same thing you were, thinking, well, this is what we're doing, so it must have been similar with that person, but it's completely different. And a lot of times we'll think, oh, that new person must have something I don't. It's like, nope, the new person is just a different person, and they are trying out different techniques for it. What's funny with one I knew too, it was like fake. It was the love bombing was just too much. Like it would memorize things like, it's been exactly 2 months since I met you, and you know what today is? It's a year since we did, and these things I never even thought about, and it's keeping track of it all. Well, it was funny, after a Hoover, when they had video stores, we went to one for a Hoover movie. What was strange was one of the films we'd seen together during a previous Hoover, it picked up on the shelf, and I said, we've already seen that. I remember specifically because it was one in a fancy theater with the fancy 3D glasses, and I recall that very strongly because I wasn't yet accepting what I was dealing with and thought there was some kind of chance back then for things to work. But it was just shocking to see that person who memorized every little thing forgot something as simple as a movie we'd seen together. They put all their focus in their latest target searches. It's like you switched in rank. Like when you were with them, they had other people they were pleasuring and seeing like they might to you in their Hoovers. And of course they'll try to convince you that they've been away for weeks and months without talking to you, but they've been alone. They've been with their family. They've been doing yard work. Or they'll make excuses up because they want to keep that opening for you just in case something doesn't work out. They'll have you to fall back on, and plus 3 others. And it's just, again, a very selfish lifestyle because it's only concerning them, even though they'll act like they care about you. But that care, you'll see, disappears the moment you start questioning them or confronting them for evil deeds they have committed. They don't want to hear that. They want you to accept their ridiculous excuse for whatever they did, which is usually grade school, playground type excuses. If you're an adult, you're not going to accept that. You're going to say, wait, I don't buy that. Come on now, let's be a little more adult-like and tell all the rest of it, and you'll be yelled at, eyes will be rolled. They'll say, you know what, I'm through. I'm done with talking about this, and they'll leave. And it's just sickening. So if it's gone, be glad. You're better off. And now it's somebody else's problem. So rejoice.
I am the most gorgeous narcopath you've ever known.
After I dumped you for the other guy, which I know you couldn't take, you were heartbroken and crushed. The reason I know this is because I heard you talking about it. See, I was in the men's locker room, servicing another guy that my new lover didn't need to know about, and I heard you in tears talking to your peers, saying how you didn't think it was going to work with me and the new guy because you were sure at any moment the conversation would come up about him. He might say, didn't you used to date that other guy? You were just confident that that would blow the whole game and that we'd be through, me and the new one. Well, honey, it shows how little you know. Truth is, you're a moral person. You believe in telling the truth and sticking to your word. I don't have that problem. The new guy and I lasted and lasted, and notice how he didn't even pay attention to you. Well, there's a reason for all that. I told him that you were abusive to me, and I suggested he stay away from you because I didn't want any kind of trouble. Plus, I told him you were a little bit crazy. Scared him a little. That's what I did. I just told him pretty much everything I did to you, the things that you acted so heartbroken over. I said you did to me, and it worked. It sure did. We're still together, going strong. Well, I am at least. He's 6 feet under. No one's gonna ask about him. They do? I have no idea. Natural causes? Not suspicious at all. Just be glad it wasn't you.
Another trick I pulled. I used to have a drug dealer. I never took the drugs because they didn't do anything for me, but I soon learned that a lot of you all out there love them.
So I stocked up on every kind of drug I could find, because I found it makes it easier to get people to do what I want, in addition to my calming techniques. So I had this drug dealer. She was selling me a little bit of everything. I started a front job. I became a makeup artist at the mall. It was all a cover. I was trying to infiltrate some other information I cannot disclose here. But I was doing that, and the drug dealer happened to come to the mall one day, and she saw me there. Well, that's all it took. She knew my secret was out. I was a makeup artist. Well, I noticed when I met her, her makeup was repulsive. Now, mine's beautiful. Evidently, she knew that her makeup was repulsive. Her eyes lit up, and she said, "Oh, I want to have my face done by you soon." And I cringed inside, but I fake smiled and said, "Oh, that would be great." Well, I had no interest in doing that. But one night I was short on cash, and I'd had like 10 dates set up for the next 10 days of drug users, and I needed to be stocked up. Didn't have any. I called her, and I said, "Do you really want your face done?" And she was so overjoyed. "Oh, yes, I want to be pretty like you." So I said, "Great. Well, I've got a special deal for you. If you'll give me one of everything you've got, I promise I'll give you 10 free makeup sessions." What do you think about that? She was at my door with the delivery. It was beautiful. A week went by, and she started calling and texting, mentioning that appointment. She wanted to have her face done, and I had no interest in any of it, so I just didn't respond, and I called in sick, because that job was fake anyway. And she was up there at the mall, looking out for me, and like, "You are a sick stalker." She kept this up. Of course, the drugs were gone. I'd gotten quite a lot of fun out of that, but she didn't need to know that. She kept at it, and I was thinking of changing my name and number because she just wouldn't let up. I didn't want to do her makeup. She is ugly, she's fugly. I can't do anything like that. That's like putting perfume on a pig. I can't make that look any better, and I didn't have the heart to tell her. I left town, but then I placed an anonymous call in to the police station, and I knew some of her routes and routines. I gave it all to them. I reported that witch. How dare she demand services from me? Who cares if I got the products long ago? I needed them. That's old news. She's irrational to expect me to do what I said I would do for her after I got the products she promised me. Well, she's wrong. I got what I needed, and that's all that matters. That's the past. I've erased it. But that's another thing I did. I don't know why people think it's wrong, but that's the way I rolled. She deserved my revenge because she dared to pester me and try to get me to do stuff for her. Understand? Glad you see it my way.
I knew a guy who's so but sweet. He's so fine, he can be beat. Got everything that I desire. Says the summer sun on fire. I want candy. I want candy. Go to see when the sun goes down. Ain't no finer boy in town. You're my guy, what the doctor ordered. So sweet to make my mouth water. I want candy.